Hello and welcome, listeners. Thank you so much for spending your time with us and supporting Co-op Radio. It's always a pleasure to come on after Sister Aisha Pia's program, Eastside Stories. This is Bulland Awaaz and The Rational. For the next couple of hours, we are going to be continuing our coverage on Palestine and the connections between Palestine and here. We are on Coast Salish territories. And on today's program, we are really privileged to be joined with Dr. Deirdre Nunan and Jeeda Musleh. Dr. Nunan is an orthopedic surgeon and has been working in Gaza and will be coming out to these territories. They were out here recently and are coming back after a few months on September the 8th at 7 p.m. They will be in conversation with Naomi Klein, and you can get information about what is the event and where to register as we have our discussion. They will be joined with community advocate and organizer Jeeda Musleh. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with them. So let me just backtrack a little bit and let listeners know once more. So on the line we have Dr. Deirdre Nunan, who's an orthopedic surgeon and has spent about 2 years working in a hospital in Gaza. And they have been out here to the West Coast previously to talk to communities about what their experiences have been and related things. And they are going to be coming back on September the 8th at the Freddie Wood Theatre at UBC. And we'll share with you where you can get more information. But it's really easy. It's at www.bcpag.carrd.co. You can make your reservations there. And joining us as well on the line is community advocate and organizer Jeeda Musleh, who is also, let me just get my thing correctly. But Jeeda, you can tell us, you are working with a number of organizations as well and are connected to advocacy and public relations, as it were, within the various communities that are connected with Palestine. And two of you are connected. So let me just begin by asking Jeeda. Jeeda, can you just give a little bit more information about yourself and how you've connected with Dr. Nunan?
Thank you for hosting us. I'm just of Apartheid-Free Communities Canada. We're working on creating this network of organizations of conscious people of this world who refuse to stay silent about what we're witnessing that is happening in Palestine, whether it is the apartheid or the genocide and all of it together. So this is what I'm going to share about today.
Okay, and how did you connect with Dr. Nunan?
So we connected when Dr. Nunan was here previously in BC in her speaking tour, and now we're connected through BC Physicians Against Genocide. I'm just helping to organize her speaking tour as well.
Right, and it's the BC Physicians Against Genocide which is hosting this.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Dr. Nunan, thank you so much for taking this time out and informing Canadians about what's going on over there and their experiences. It's really rare that we get an opportunity to talk with somebody that has direct experience on the ground. Can I begin by asking you to share a little bit of your context? How did you come into this intersection of working then in Gaza?
Hi, are you still hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, good. I lost you for just a second there. I'm in rural Saskatchewan, and occasionally my cell phone service is not as good as I would like it to be, so hopefully I stay in the right zone for the rest of this call. So first off, you guys both have to call me Deirdre. Dr. Nunan feels so... And a lot of the work I do is in the Middle East, where people are generally on a first name basis, including as doctors. So about the most formal I tend to get is people calling me Dr. D. So Dr. Nunan feels a bit not like myself. So I am a Saskatchewan orthopedic surgeon, born and raised, and I trained a little bit all over Western Canada. But the dream had always been to work internationally in the humanitarian field. And I've been quite lucky to be able to make that part of my fairly normal work day. So frequently I work in rural Saskatchewan and Moose Jaw, but most of the time I've been able to work internationally during the past 10 years of my career. And in this last year, I've worked 3 separate times in Gaza. Now, I'm just going to make a small correction from the start of the show. I have not worked in Nasser Hospital for 2 years. Nasser Hospital, I was working there for 3 weeks in July. In the springtime, I worked for 7 weeks at European Gaza Hospital, and in October, almost a year ago now, I worked for 1 month at European Gaza Hospital. And then between 2019 and 2022, I was at Awaaz Hospital in the north of Gaza and Jabalia. And that was a much more concentrated period of time where it was just about a year and a half spread over 3 different times. So that's a little bit about my work experience and my connection with Gaza and when I've been there most recently.
Can you share with us some more context around what kinds of experiences you found while you were there? We've seen images, we tend to know what it's like, but since you've been on the ground, would you like to share some of that with us?
It's often a study in contrasts in Gaza because unlike many other places that I've worked where the healthcare system may not have been ideal or adequate for the purposes, the healthcare system had generally been improving gradually over time. In Gaza, where I was working, that this was a healthcare system that had been degraded in terms of the quality of care it was able to provide to people. And so there were some aspects where I would look around and at first visually it would look like a pretty normal hospital on the inside. And then as you started to work and started to see more, I'd see how things weren't functioning, how maybe water wasn't coming out of every one of the sinks in the operating room. Certain days there wasn't any water coming out of any of those sinks. There were days when we didn't have enough electricity to run the air conditioning, which is not a comfort thing in the operating room. It's an absolute necessity to have it. And we would be going through the storage rooms trying to see, did we have the right size implants for orthopedics that we needed? Did we have the right length screws? And trying to cobble together what was left over from times where Gaza's hospitals were better supplied, where they were able to be better maintained, where the materials for maintenance were being brought in, versus now when we're under this near total siege that was in place from March the 2nd until when I last left Gaza at the end of July. And then the patients that are in front of me, regardless of how the hospital might look, the patients are anything but what I would consider normal or acceptable in any context. Looking at people that have sunken faces, sunken eyes, prominent cheekbones, their abdomens are just scooped out as they lie on their back on the table because they are so thin. It's not absolutely everybody, but it was more and more people. Each time I was coming back, I could see people in general getting thinner. The people that I knew, and then on average, the patients I was treating. And the patients I was treating this last July, almost invariably, there were 2 stories. The story was either that somebody had been bombed while in their tent with their family and been injured that way, which could be shrapnel, burns, open fractures, terrible multi-system injuries from out. And then the other big group of people that I was seeing were people that were injured in the course of trying to get food for themselves and their families. People shot at the GHF, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation food distribution site. People shot as they tried to go near the flour trucks and when they came over the borders, and sometimes that was with tank fire as well as with gunfire. And I've never seen people with this kind of story before, that starvation has driven them to try in a place that where people seeking food are being shot.
It is absolutely shocking. And I mean, for Canadians who are so far removed from the situation, I don't know, I guess I want to ask a couple of questions around your experiences with, say, the hospital, and is the foreign aid or situation that I guess has completely depleted, and there's absolutely no help, it seems, from us as outsiders looking in. I wonder how you feel when you come back to Canada, and are engaging with, say, let's ask professionals in the field, who are ordinary Canadians who are removed from the situation, and your experiences with the government, because we know that a number of physicians, including yourself, have been advocating. So can you share with us your experiences around your colleagues in Canada and around the government, and what their responses or conversations have been like?
My colleagues, similar to there's a pretty big spectrum of what people know and what they understand. And so there are people who have an understanding that we're working under dire circumstances. They know how people are being injured. They understand that there is bombing close to the hospital. They have been attacked. I mean, even within the last week, it's 1 week since Nasser Hospital was struck in a double strike attack by the Israeli military, which killed 22 people and injured 50. And so there are some people that understand that kind of context, and that these are the realities for people working in Gaza. And then there are other people that really don't of what's happening to any extent. People that are shocked to hear about the food blockage, people who are shocked that I might not have every piece of medical equipment that I might want there. People who are surprised the hospital might be attacked. And so there's a very wide range of people's understandings. And in terms of our politicians, I have had an opportunity to talk to a number of politicians. I found myself again surprised by some of the lack of knowledge on some things that I would think would be relatively basic at this phase, or extremely important to know for somebody that is making political decisions for Canadians. And while I have seen that there are politicians in our country with a great deal of commitment and passion to try to change something for the better for Palestinians, what I've seen is that we have created a government structure that works very, very slowly, and where the individual person, even in MP, senator kind of position, the individual person does not have nearly as much power or as much of a voice as I would have thought before I started talking to politicians. And it's been a surprise and quite a dismaying one. And sometimes I'm not entirely sure, is it, Is it that we have intentionally complicated this situation and we will not engage with it as clearly as the government has engaged with, say, Russia and Ukraine, which they paint for themselves in a much more black and white way? Is that why we saw such quick action on Russia and Ukraine? Or is it that different people with a different profile were making things move and happen at a very fast pace when we were looking at sanctions, economic responses, and even how Canada welcomed Ukrainian refugees into our country?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. It's a very, the juxtaposition of these two situations really bring light to how the Canadian government has responded, and by and large, how professionals in all walks of life and Canadians in general have. I would love for Jeeda to come into this conversation as well, please, by engaging with Deirdre. So, Jeeda, how do you feel? What do you want to share so far in listening to what Deirdre has been talking about, and in terms of your own experiences? Please join us.
Yeah, Deirdre, thank you so much for drawing a very clear picture, or at least a taste of it, not only of what is happening in Palestine and Gaza, but also the picture about how it is here in the general Canadian public. And if you're listening to us tonight and, maybe don't feel bad about what's going on, because we could easily feel bad and sad, not only about Gaza, but also about and our Canadian government's response to what is happening, and the complicity of our government. And here's, I would love to share more about one of the things you could do, and I would love to share about the Apartheid-Free Communities initiative that is getting lots of traction. It's all about really justice, and we're all working towards peace, but justice is a prerequisite to peace. Peace cannot happen just like that. And if you read any book or take any courses or anything regarding conflict resolution, or even if you do business or even counseling, whenever there's something to be resolved or a problem to resolve, the first thing to do, the first step, is to name that problem and to identify what it is. Otherwise, we cannot really deal with it. And this is, part of what AFC, Apartheid-Free Communities, is about, to name apartheid and name these structural injustices that have been happening to people of Palestine for the past 78 years, which, resulted in now, what's happening. We're seeing the genocide unfolding, and it's all, it's not only just an incident that just happened. This has been a result of years and years of oppression against the Palestinian people. And the pledge is basically people pledging, communities pledging not to fund this apartheid, this genocide, or support it. It's a grassroots initiative. Any community who represents any group of people, could sign the pledge. And it's all about the power of people, conscious people coming together, citizens of this world saying no, opposing all these injustices. And it's basically, we're learning from history, because in South Africa, this is exactly what happened, the brutal apartheid in South Africa. And by the way, they are the ones who gave Palestinians the language to describe the oppression and the injustices that we have been going through. When they started coming in delegations to visit Palestine, they are the ones who gave us the name apartheid, the term. And the whole world came together to dismantle the apartheid in South Africa. And we're seeing the same is happening now for Palestine. And basically, when communities sign on the pledge, it's not only a pledge that they sign on and forget about it. Basically, they're signing on being part of a big network, a global network. It's not only locally, it's a global network of all these conscious human beings, humanitarians coming together to oppose the structural injustices. So far here locally, we have about 150 communities, but there are hundreds around the world, and it's only getting more traction.
Wow, thank you for sharing that information. Where do listeners go to sign up or get more information about this free apartheid communities?
So there is the website apartheid-free.org, and we have also locally our Instagram account, Apartheid Free Communities BC. And recently, like, we're so happy that City of Burnaby actually signed on as the first apartheid free city. They declared themselves as the first Canadian apartheid free city. So kudos to Burnaby.
Oh, fantastic! And it's awesome that the community came around for that to happen. There was a lot of dialogue and pressure on from the communities to make it happen. Deirdre, I wanted to cycle back to ask you again around your experiences talking about it, your experiences in Palestine, and then talking about that with Canadians. Can I ask you this time to talk about ordinary Canadians, you would say, not those that are in your profession, but folks that you've come across, whether that's in the media asking you stuff around your experiences, or whether that's in other community settings. How do you sense folks are understanding the situation? Say, you can take the timeline back as far as you like, but what's your sense of the pulse?
A lot of the times when I engage with people in the community, it's in the context of giving a talk about Gaza. And so people have already self-selected, essentially, to come to these talks. Sometimes I do have people who have brought a friend or a relative, or somebody that's had their curiosity piqued without knowing very much. But more often, it's people who already often have a quite good degree of knowledge or quite a good degree of involvement already. But I do now and then manage to cross paths with somebody, like a woman that told me a few weeks ago. She said, I had no idea that this was happening. She said, I have been a Canadian for 40 years and I had no idea about any of this. And she said to me, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to be a Canadian with a government that is doing what ours is doing right now. And I encourage her to express that to her elected representatives, and then to go beyond that, to write to our Minister of Foreign Affairs, to write to our Prime Minister, and to try to express to them exactly what she'd said to me, because I feel that this is probably amongst those who don't have much knowledge about what's happening in Gaza right now. I think that the average human being is appalled when they hear about intentional starvation of a population as a whole, who are just can't, like I can't, quite wrap their heads around it, that someone is shooting people that are queuing for food. And that the whistleblowers that we've heard, and the Palestinian patients and other survivors that I've talked to, say that those people are American security contractors and Israeli soldiers. And how has Canada engaged in this futile effort, and often worse than futile, dangerous, of sending airdrops of food into a place where just days later commercial trucks were allowed to enter? And so I think that the average person, once they have a bit more knowledge about what's happening in Gaza right now, as well as what has been the history of occupation and apartheid and the violations of international law, they are not on side with this, and they don't understand why the people that we've elected to represent us are on side with it. So I feel like I've lost track of the original question a little bit, but I hope I'm still kind of a little bit on topic here.
No, absolutely. You absolutely are. And I wanted to then just follow up and ask you, so then when you are giving these talks over the years that you have been in Canada, how have the questions been? What kinds of concerns have you heard then from the audiences who are already informed, as it were, right?
Yeah. Well, the questions run the whole gamut from people who are very concerned about me and my mental health to people who want to get into some of the issues where they see a big discrepancy between what they hear me talking about and what they hear the media talking about, and to understand why are hospitals being attacked? Are there terrorists in these hospitals? Is a question that people often do want to know. And then other people want to know what they can do. And that's my favorite question to talk about, because I believe so strongly that the real place for work is here in Canada. And I get a lot of attention. I get a lot of what I think is really undeserved praise because I go to Gaza. But the work that I do when I'm in Gaza, I'm able to stand side by side with my Palestinian colleagues. I'm able to physically reach out a comforting hand. I'm able to offer the skills that I have to patients. But it is very, very tiny to be one medical humanitarian. And it's too late. The patients that I'm treating, they were already bombed in their tents. They were already shot in the lineup for food. They already have lost family members, either from that incident or from something else in the past 2 years or in the years before that. And so me being in Gaza, there is an extent to which international medical workers, we perpetuate the system because we create a sense that it's all right, that somebody's helping. But the real help is by stopping the root causes of the problem. And we talk about this in medicine all the time with other factors. You know, we don't want to treat the elderly person who has fallen down and broken their hip. We would like to prevent them having weak bones in the first place that were able to break when they fell. We don't want to treat a whole lot of people who have been smashed up in car accidents. We want safe cars. We want seatbelt laws. We want good road conditions, and we want impaired driving rules. But sometimes in the medical community, when it comes to international perspectives, and particularly in Gaza, in Palestine, I have been told not to talk about root causes. I've been told that that's not my role as a physician, as a surgeon, but I absolutely think it is my role. Why should I commit myself to a lifetime of trying to piece back terribly wounded people, or worse, not piece them back and cut off their legs and their arms? So the work that people like Jeeda are doing here, this is the work that will really change the world. The work that I am doing will not. But my hope is that I can connect people a little bit with Gaza. I can give them a firsthand account of what I've seen. I can tell the stories of my patients and my colleagues and my friends that are in Gaza, and thereby give people some of the motivation, maybe some of the encouragement to keep going when they're doing the work that Jeeda and the people around her have been doing. That work is definitely harder. It's definitely less immediately rewarding than what I get to do, but they are the people that are really changing the world, and they are my heroes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You're right, absolutely, in that the root causes are what's always going to make a difference if we pay attention to that rather than the symptoms of it. So I wanted to backtrack and just ask you, so who would it be that would say to you then you are not able to, don't talk about the root causes, just sort of do your work? Am I understanding correctly? I just wanted to go back and get a sense of like what the dynamics there was.
That was a fellow healthcare worker. That specifically, and this is not particular to me. This is throughout the medical community, but it's also in the academic community in Canada. It's also in the political community that people try to censor their peers from speaking out about root causes.
Right.
And I think that the tendency to do this is very, very much higher when we talk about Israel and Palestine
Right.
than when we talk about other contexts in the world.
Absolutely, yeah, no, definitely. We've certainly seen that in professions, like you said, in academia. This happens as a rule of thumb. It's happening more and more in other professional settings when people are talking about Palestine or advocating for that. It happened at the Vancouver Public Library, where the board of directors decided that staff were not able to wear anything supportive of Palestine, like a watermelon pin or a kafaya or something. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this pressure, definitely, that we have faced, and it's different than in other conflicts that Canada plays a different role. That Canada plays a more humanitarian role. Here it seems that, well, not seems, I mean, it is a fact. Canada is actively supporting this by not standing up for justice. Jeeda, I want you to come back into this conversation. What have been some of your experiences with folks who are tuned in and know? What kinds of questions do you find that folks who are tuned in have?
Yeah, like I think also, I guess, like people are on a spectrum. Like there are people who are so fully involved in everything Palestine, and I'm so thankful for their dedication to the cause. And there are people who are just starting to learn about Palestine. And of course, there are people who avoid the topic altogether. But in general, I'm feeling that yes, all the conscious people of this world are really like in the know, and if there is anything they want to learn more about, they are asking, they are reaching out. We're getting lots of messages of people wanting to be involved, wanting to volunteer, wanting to be part of the AFC team, the Apartheid Free Communities team, or other events. And so, like, I'm so encouraged to see that. And there are some people who are afraid to speak, of course, because they are afraid of any repercussions that might happen. And we fully know that, you know, like some people got repercussions because of their stand on Palestine, but kudos to them. They spoke the truth, and they spoke truth to power, even though there were repercussions. And this is the power about any initiative, any movement that involves the power of people. The more communities, the more conscious people who come on board with us and speak the truth, the harder it will get for the government to keep ignoring or to attack them, because people have all the power. I do believe so. And I totally agree with Deirdre that we'll have to talk about root causes. We can't treat only symptoms and just to see this as an incident or just a one-time thing. The root causes have to be tackled in order for really a just peace and long-term peace to happen. And you know, like I'm so encouraged by coming back to speak about Burnaby, about the city council and the quality of the quality of people who are sitting on this council. I don't know, like if Noor, you have ever talked to any of them, but just with brief, whether it is brief conversations, or even if you go into deeper conversations with them, you would record, it won't take much time to realize that not only they have high IQ, but also wide, comprehensive, and also a realistic worldview. That really, they're not the kind of stay in your own lane kind of politicians that many of the politicians of this world are. but even the things that they are involved in, the humanitarian work they do, the social justice causes, amazing causes, and also creative ones. And I am so encouraged to see their leadership, and we're really hoping that many other politicians will really follow their example. And what they did basically is what every politician should do, just to reflect what the average people, the average communities, what they wanted. So people of Burnaby mobilized their community, and because of the cause of Palestine, it's not a faraway issue. Like local Palestinians in Burnaby and outside, like all over this country, have been experiencing lots of anti-Palestinian racism cases, and this is affecting us here locally. So bringing all of that, all of these concerns, the anti-Palestinian racism cases, as well as the concerns of people who still have people in Palestine, and or even if they are not connected to anyone in Palestine, but as a human being, as a conscious citizen of this world, like people mobilized to City of Burnaby because they the arms embargo, like it's a big topic. Like our government is still complicit, not only not saying anything, they're still sending weapons for these kids to be murdered. According to the website of Doctors Against Genocide, the statistics says that it's over 300,000 civilians who were murdered just in the past 2 years. And I think in response to all of these concerns of Burnaby residents, and also like residents, citizens of this country, across this country, I think the leadership of City of Burnaby should be really like amplified and really duplicated in so many other places, because they only reflected what their people wanted, and their leadership is they set a precedent not only to us locally here, but to every politician in this world, to stop this insanity, to stop this genocide, and to stop all the structural injustices, not only in Palestine, but we have to stand up for every human being who's going through the same oppression or similar oppression around the world, including the indigenous people on Turtle Island.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's really nice. I mean, I'm really happy that the city of Burnaby did pass this, and the citizens came out, and it was fantastic. And it should set a precedent, and I hope that it snowballs with other cities. I wanted to cycle back to Deirdre and ask the other side of the question, which is pushback for your advocacy and the work that you've done. Can you talk to us about your experiences around that in whichever way you feel comfortable?
So from my experience, I can happily report that I've received relatively minimal pushback. There are plenty of physicians and physician advocates in Canada who have much more than I have to say about personal experience in that aspect. I am always conscious that the more I speak out, the more my chances are that I will face pushback. But for me, that's not really the important thing. The most important thing for me is that I do whatever I can with the tools that I have to speak out for what I think is right. I cannot go through life not doing or saying what I believe to be right. The cost of that may be. And I also look at what my Palestinian friends and colleagues risk every day, which is far more than I will ever be asked to risk. And so in order to do justice to the work that they continue to do, to the resilience they've been forced to show, the innovation, these right now, the hospital I was working at, it is so full, and they have used so many of the medical materials to treat the patients that they're treating that they have actually been going through the medical scrap heap and trying to turn waste into usable medical products. The maintenance have done amazing work with this, and some of the surgeons have given their ideas as to how these items can be made into medical devices. So when that is what my colleagues are up against at work, and when I know that they go home to attempt to know electricity, then for me, pushback, I can very much deal with the process.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for sharing that. Jeeda, I wonder how your experiences have been around pushback. If you felt that while you are doing the work that you have been doing, can you share any of it or whatever you feel comfortable?
Sure, yeah. So we had some incidents in some of our public libraries of people opposing us screening some Palestine movies, and it's really funny and interesting, Noor. Like, honestly, we're having now like a laugh at the anti-Palestinian racism, how ridiculous it is. One of the public libraries that we were screening a movie called The Occupation of the American Mind. If you haven't watched it already, please do. Like, it's an excellent movie. And somebody complained that we were screening it. We got banned from the library without us being, without having a conversation with us. Anyways, I did some research and I found that the movie actually is in that library's database. Like, it's in their database, and they banned us from this library, and we're still fighting back to get
That's
our.
crazy.
It is crazy, and it's really interesting because whereas anything like there's the Palestine exception, like whatever you you propose to this library, like if there's anything related to Palestine, like there is also always an exception. Whereas we have some Ukrainian friends who actually applied the same application to the same library to a group that is even more exclusive, saying that we are local Ukrainians wanting to meet in the library. We want to have this space to process our trauma, collective trauma, and they got approved. And it's just so ridiculous. Like, the racism is so high, yet it's so funny. But we're still fighting to get our status back. And this is just one of the many incidents that has happened. So just wanted to share it today.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. It is really, really weird and odd. But I get a sense, though, that after a couple of years of this going on and Canadians, getting this news and this information, that they are tuning in and they're becoming a little bit more aware, and they also want to do something. And so, Deirdre, what are the recommendations that you would give to ordinary Canadians? What would be you've named a couple of them already in this conversation. If we can just cycle back to what you direct ordinary Canadians to do. And of course, they're coming at different levels of background and knowledge. But generally speaking, what kinds of things do you think would be most effective if Canadians were to engage with? Maybe that's the connection issue, Jeeda, because I can't hear Deirdre. Oh.
Yeah, you're the connection was gone on my end too. I just it just came back.
Okay, maybe Deirdre is back with us. Hello, Deirdre. Okay, so I'll throw it off to you in case Deirdre is able to pick up the connection and join us again. But Jeeda, what are the recommendations that you give to ordinary Canadians? What are most effective things that you find people should be working on doing in support?
Yeah, I would recommend that whatever their capacity is, just to decide to do at least one thing, whether it is to join a rally or to put together a Palestine movie night to spread awareness about Palestine, whether it is to take the apartheid-free communities pledge to their community and be part of our network, which is basically like signing up to be part of this connection of lots of communities who are humanitarian, and we're planning our first conference, actually the tree conference in November, and it's gonna be an in communities to come together and connect. So we would love to see more and more communities joining us. And also, Noor, you mentioned one of the speaking events for Deirdre, but actually there are more. So there is, and you're more than welcome to join us. 6th at the Muslim Association of Canada, and then there is one on September 8th at UBC, and the third one is September United Church. If you follow the Instagram account of BC Physicians Against Genocide or the Apartheid Free Communities BC, those events are posted there. So hopefully we'll see a good turnout. Come hear Deirdre's stories and hear her voice. Your voice, Deirdre, is important, and to portray to Canadians who never got the chance to go to Palestine or to Gaza to know what exactly is happening there. So I hope to see many people there.
Awesome, yeah, and I encourage listeners to follow up, and it's really easy. I'll spell Deirdre Nunan's name, DeirdreNunan. Just type that in and you'll be able to get much more information, as well as following Physicians Against Genocide and, Jeeda, say it one more time, the Apartheid Free Communities?
It's BC, yes, Apartheid Free Communities BC.
Yeah, Apartheid Free Communities BC. If Deirdre is able to join us on the line right now. Hello, Deirdre, are you still there or able to join us? Okay, it looks like the call got dropped. So we'll close this discussion at this time, and we'll thank Deirdre Nunan for their work and for joining us earlier today, as well as Jeeda Musleh for coming and sharing with us how people can get involved and your experiences in organizing. And we look forward to talking with you again as we go down the road.
Thank you, Noor. Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting us.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the work that you do. And don't forget, we still are here on unceded Coast Salish territories. This is an obvious connection between what's happening here and what's happening there. If you haven't tuned into that connection, we'd recommend that you give that a think. And as we get to the end of our program, stay tuned. At 7 o'clock, there is other programming coming up here at 100.5 FM, and we're also streaming at www.coopradio.org.